Hi, said youth. Um, if I'm talking a little quieter, it's because I'm recording this at night. Uh, Sorry I didn't get to this sooner. Silas and I were just having a good time today, and I forgot. It's 9:15, almost 9:20, and this is the recap from Sunday. We talked about Ruth chapter 4, and we actually finished the book of Ruth. And so, if you were unable to join us, we had a blast at the coast. Man, it was windy, but we had a fun time. I struggled to start a fire. We ate food. People got sand in their eyes and mouth. Um, it was a really fun time. Had a blast celebrating and getting to spend some time with our seniors. Um, Celebrating Ashley's birthday. And just a reminder, we will not have Sunday morning youth or youth group at 4 this upcoming Sunday. Um, it's the holiday weekend, so Anna and I are going to be out of town, but we will be back with regular 4 p.m. youth group and Sunday morning the following Sunday. But this is a recap and kind of an end cap to the book of Ruth. Last week, we ended with Ruth presenting herself to Boaz and essentially proposing marriage to Boaz. And Boaz agrees, but we find out that it's kind of the twist in every love story that things might not be as simple as they thought they were going to be. And so uh, this week, it was about redeeming joy. Uh, and so it says, Boaz, this is Ruth chapter 4. Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the Redeemer of whom Boaz had spoken came by. And Boaz said, Turn aside, friend, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. So Boaz sees this other person, and this was another male um, family member of Elimelech who was next in line to take on that role of Redeemer. And we're going to talk about that role in just a second. Um, and Boaz sees him and he has him come over. And then he gathers some elders in the gate and they sit down and talk. And Boaz lays it out for him. He says, Hey, Naomi, Elimelech's wife, has returned from the land of Moab, um, husbandless, no heir to take on the inheritance, and there is a tract of land. Would you like to redeem it? And this other family member, this other guy who has an ability to redeem, um, says, "Oh yeah." He's thinking like, "Sweet, I get to add some land to my own land. This is great. I'll marry, or you know, I want the land." And then Boaz says, "Okay, it's all yours, but you should know that when you take it, if you want it, her daughter-in-law Ruth is able and willing to continue the family line for Elimelech. So when you take the land, you have to marry Ruth." And on hearing that, this other guy is like, "Whoa, nah, nope, not doing that." And we talked a little bit about this, and I don't think this is meant as a slight. I don't think this is meant. I think this guy is trying. I think he's being greedy, first of all, because he's willing to do it for the land, but not for Ruth. That's not great. But remember, in Israel, they were not supposed to marry or intermarry with Moabites. And so if this guy grew up hearing that and grew up with that in the back of his mind, he hears that Ruth is a Moabite, it's understandable that he's not like gung ho about that. And so he turns down marrying Ruth and he says, Nope, because what he says is, I don't want my inheritance to be mixed in and lost to the family of Elimelech. So this this person who legally is closer to Elimelech's family and is more able to redeem Elimelech and Ruth and Naomi, chooses not to because he does not want to marry Ruth, mix his family with a Moabite person, and mix his land with the land of Elimelech and the inheritance of Elimelech. So he says no. So Boaz is in the clear. And they give him the sandal as a mark of like, say, see, I have your word that you are declining it, and now I am able to do this thing. Um, and then Ruth and Boaz get married. Awesome. Um, It's a love story, happy ending, hooray. But remember, this is taking place in the time of the judges. And so what we have here is Boaz, who is described earlier in the book as a worthy man, um, doing what at first glance might seem contrary to what the people of Israel were called to do. They were told, don't intermarry with the Moabites. Don't do it. And Boaz does it, and he seems to seek that out willingly. Also, Ruth is a Moabite girl who, when she's brought into the land, she is able to integrate and wants to be a part of the people of God. She's seeking that out. She even tells Naomi at the beginning, "Your God will be my God." And so you have these two people who in their culture should not be together, who, like on first glance, it doesn't really make the most sense. Boaz isn't even the most, like, legally, he's not the closest one to do it, yet Boaz is the one who does redeem Ruth in this situation. I mean, the reason we're talking about redeeming joy is something that comes from Ruth and Boaz's marriage is they have a son. His name is Obed. And then we read a fun little, like, name list. I won't read it for you now, but Ruth chapter 4, 18 to 22, which is the end. At the end of that, it says, Salmon fathered Boaz. So Boaz's dad was named Salmon. Boaz fathered Obed. Obed fathered Jesse, and Jesse fathered David. So this brings us into the next book, which we actually started reading in Sunday Morning Youth almost a year and a half ago, 1 Samuel and 2 Samuel. It brings us up to David. And so what the author of Ruth is trying to do is trying to connect this time of the judges where things were bad in Israel. The Israelites were failing. They kept failing, get on the sin spiral. And every single time God sends a judge, bails them out, and then they fall back into sin. And within that is Ruth, this Moabite girl who's not an Israelite. She doesn't have any connection to the people of God other than she wants to be a part of it. And inside of that, she acts as this commentary of the person who responds in faith can find redeeming joy amongst the people of God. And Ruth is kind of this we've talked about how Israel is supposed to be this road sign to the nations around them. Ruth is kind of like a road sign to the road sign. It's saying, hey, y'all are not pointing people in the direction that they should be looking. They're not pointing people to the one true God. And Ruth shows up, and she is kind of like this big flashing, like, hey, I know that your God is good because I've experienced that God, and I want to be a part of it. But once she interacts with it, we see that she is different than what we find in Judges. And she is a Moabite, and Judges deals with a lot of Israelite people. It's also a good reminder that even though in Deuteronomy and Exodus, where it talks about like those who are in the land, the Moabites, God had told them don't marry them, we can understand that is not the legalism of that is not to follow it all the way to the end. Otherwise, Boaz would be at fault, and we might not find the redeeming joy that we find here. So, what is going on? I think those instances is God knowing that his people are going to struggle to remain faithful to him and do what is right in the land. Tell them just don't marry the people there because their gods are going to cause you to stray because you don't need any help with that is, I think, the idea. And the reason we can understand that God still cares for those people because way back in the beginning of the Torah in Genesis told Abraham, all the nations of the world will be blessed through you. That includes Moab. That includes the people that Ruth comes from. And we are seeing how that idea that all the nations of the earth can be blessed comes into play in Ruth, in this Moabite girl who, on first glance, maybe shouldn't be a part of the people of God if we just take a surface look. But on second glance, through her faith, she is included in the people of God. And not only that, she is like the great grandmother to Jesus, who is the one who brings us ultimate redeeming joy, who doesn't just like redeem our situation in Ruth's case, but redeems our spiritual life and our spiritual situation, our spiritual standing before God. Um, yeah, so Ruth is a direct ancestor to Jesus, this Moabite girl who gets a book in the Bible, is a widow, a foreigner, um, and on surface should not have maybe been in the land, and she did. And Boaz was a worthy man who took her in and married her and didn't hold on to what he had. He didn't say, well, I want to keep my inheritance pure. He said, no, this is what's right, and I want to do what's right to not just Ruth and Naomi, but my relative Elimelech. I mean, because of that, we get David. We've talked about David in Sunday morning, and we also, from that line, get Jesus. So it's a really cool story. And it's really like it's a happy ending. Uh, it's very, very different than the book of Judges where it takes place in. So that's the book of Ruth. Again, we're going to be off for a week. When we come back, we're going to be starting a new series called Jesus is Greater. It's going to be a study in the book of Hebrews. We're gonna import what we've been doing the last year in youth group with this At a Glance series, and we're going to import that into the book of Hebrews to figure out why Jesus is so much better than what came before him. So, love you guys. Hope you are well. Get some sleep, and we'll see you Thursday for a video. But we will see you next week, as there's no youth things this week. Love you guys. Have a good night.